You're listening to the Transformational Speakers Podcast with your awesome host, Erin Lohman-Jack.
Hello and welcome to the Transformational Speakers Podcast. I'm your host, Erin Lohman-Jack, and I wanted to come today and talk to you about leadership. I just got back from a 10-day women's leadership conference, and I really was challenged to my own beliefs around my leadership, how I show up in the world, and maybe even how I see how other people show up that's effective or ineffective. And one of the things that really came to me is when I am the leader of self. A leader of self, it really truly is what a true leader is. I used to struggle thinking that if I'm leading people, where am I leading them to? And you don't need to know that as long as you know you're a leader who has leaders follow them. Now, what I mean by that is, as a leader, I don't want sheep. I even hate the word followers. I hate that on social media because I think really truly I'm here to serve leaders. I'm a leader, I serve leaders, and I help other people step up into their leadership even more. And so when I see things out there where people are, leading followers, I think of like a cult. And I don't want to lead a cult. I might pour the Kool-Aid, but let me just tell you, it's your own Kool-Aid. I help you drink the Kool-Aid of yourself and your soul and your purpose. The other thing that I noticed is how people show up and do as I say, not as I do, right? So we've all heard, people say, do as I say, not as I do. And I think when you're a true leader, you lead and you lead by example, even when it gets sticky. I remember one time I was so motivated to help the whole room at my Speaker Success Summit that I said, I could feel the tension in the room, so I'm going to offer something I've never offered before. If you want to work with me, you tell me where you want to play with me, and then I will pay your tuition into one of the other speakers' programs. And everyone loved it, and everyone was excited about it. I didn't realize what I had stepped into because I had a lot of different offers. I had a $47 offer and I had a $10,000 offer. So what I really meant was anyone who wanted to work with me one-on-one. And I knew I wasn't clear. When people came and they said, okay, I'm buying your $47 product or your $197 ticket so that you pay for my tuition, I realized that I had screwed up. But when a leader screws up, they admit their screw up and they eat it. I ate the money. I had to say, okay, well, you're right. That's what I said. I wasn't clear on my communication. I will take the hit. I will still pay for their, membership or their thing with the other coach or speaker. And I did. And I'll be honest, I lost some money out of it. Let me be really honest. I lost a lot of money out of that. And it was okay because I knew that I was still in integrity with my word. Being a leader is being true to your word and leading by example. I wouldn't want to take advantage of someone else in that way. And I know that I would go and ask the questions. At the same time, I also know that a lot of other people wouldn't have stuck to their guns and went through with that. So ask you today, what is it that you probably could do better? Where is it your leadership is lacking? Is it the way you show up? Is it the way that you maybe don't stick to your own word? Or maybe you don't stick to your own word to yourself? I know many of us it's easier to lie to ourselves, to set goals and things and never tell anyone so no one will ever know when you don't do it. But where are you doing that? What is it about you that might be being held back because you're not keeping your word with yourself? And when I watch, people say, oh, I want to work with you, Erin, and I'm building up this to work with you and whatever, I really believe people. And I believe that people are honest and good to their word. And more than not, I'm let down, but I still hold them to the same standards that I hold myself to. If I say I'm going to do something, I do it. And it reminds me of another time when I said I would do something. This friend and I had a falling out, so it would have been really easy to still not do it. And I did it anyway. Not out of revenge, not out of spite, but because I said I would. So, watch what you say you commit to. Be clear on what you're committing to and make sure you're going to hold yourself accountable to it, or you're going to keep your word to the other person. All of these things are so important in leadership. When I look to leaders, I'm looking for someone who, yes, has the route to the top of the mountain, but also knows that they're going to get there in full integrity and with commitments to their word and to the other people. Thinking about leadership, just think about, how do you show up as a leader? Maybe you need to ask. Maybe you need to look around and ask people how you show up. It's a really scary thing to ask. However, it's the most powerful information you can get. Because if there's something ineffective that's holding you back, who is going to tell you? And if you don't ask, you're never going to know. So figure out what that is for you. Take that risk for yourself. Figure out what it is that I could be better at, do better with, so I get better results. I know as a leader, I really truly stand for somebody. And most times in this world, we don't take a stand for anyone. And so when I see I can help somebody, I take a stand for them. When I see somebody getting out of what they said they're going to commit to, I take a stand for them. I think the problem, or one of the problems in the world is that we're not taking a stand for one another. And I didn't even realize I was doing it. It's just a part of who I am. And one of my soul sisters said, I love how you take a stand for others. You see their greatness, you see what they're capable of, and you don't let them not show up in that way. When they don't show up in that way, you tell them, you point it out. Thinking about how can you take a stand? Maybe it's just taking a stand for your friends, your family members. I take a stand for my son when he's screaming and yelling or has some attitude going on. And I say, ooh, wow, that's not the son I know. The son I know is compassionate and caring and loving and speaks with a better tone. So find the ways that you can be a better leader. Lead by example, lead from the front, lead from the middle, and lead from the back. You don't have to be the loudest person. You don't have to be in front of the room. You just have to be committed to where you're going and know that you're in true integrity with your word and with what you commit to and where you want to take people. That's truly it. It's not so complicated. So stop complicating it. I just wanted to come in today and just share a little bit about what I know is truly the deep parts of leadership. And one of the last things I want to leave you with is leadership can be lonely. Building a $40 million company, traveling the world, doing all these amazing things. And then when I'm sitting in here, just got off recording a webinar, it can be lonely sitting in here. I can look at all these plans that are happening in the next year. I can look at all my different programs and prices and all the things that are being created. And it can feel a little daunting and overwhelming sometimes. And, usually when you're blazing the trail needs the person with the biggest axe, with the biggest machete to cut through the bushes, to cut through the cobwebs, to know that they're going to take some risks and maybe even take a hit if something jumps out on the trail in front of them. But that's what leadership is. Sometimes lonely. And it can also be so powerful. And I know if you're listening to this podcast, you are a leader because you have a big message to get out to the world. You wouldn't have chosen to subscribe or listen to this podcast if you weren't one of those. So take a minute, look at how you show up, look at where you are in your leadership, rate yourself. How could you be better? What could you do that will increase your influence, impact, and how you're going to make a difference in the world? I know that being an influential leader takes work, but it's worth it. Thank you so much. And we will see you on stage. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Transformational Speakers Podcast. If you'd like to know more about your host, Erin Lohman-Jeck, and how to work with her, please go to her website at erinlohmanjeck.com. You will find more about her coursework, and resources. We hope to see you on stage.